Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Railroading again. They're in service. They're back in service. Probably going to be a couple of hiccups as they get that thing all launched all over again, but good for them. They got it all worked out. Congratulations. I'm pleased. Are you guys pleased? That's good news. It's a big headache for people. It's a real big pain in the neck. And Long Island Railroad, I always heard that was a very good job as far as being an engineer, being a conductor, working on that thing is a great place to be in terms of job security, in terms of pensions and all that stuff. Good. Now, for a while there, they were milking it. Anybody remember that story? When they had this situation where basically almost everybody was getting a disability pension. Too many people, not everybody, but too many people were getting a disability pension. And disability pension, man, oh man, 3/4 no taxes as compared to 50% with taxes. That is a great, great deal. And a lot of people wanted them, and it looked like they were working the system. And I think a few people got arrested along the way. All right. I'm glad they got that worked out, and I won't have to worry about it for a long time. If you take the railroad, I hope you take a double-decker. Don't you like the double-decker? The only beef I have with the Long Island Railroad, it's too bright. On board, it's too bright. The lights are too bright. Very difficult for sleeping, and maybe they do it that way on purpose. They don't want people sleeping on the train. Who remembers their stops? I remember, what was it? Hollis, Belrose, Floral Parks, Stewart Manor, Nassau Boulevard, Garden City, Country Life Press, and Hempstead. I should be able to do more. I know my dad can rip off everything on the South Shore line, right? Everything from Massapequa Park, all that stuff. Excuse me. Very, very good. Did you guys see what the airplane crash? Terrible. And I just got all kinds of flashbacks of what these air shows, what happens at them, and how you really don't want to go to any more air shows. I don't think we should have air shows. We lost 2 F-18 airplanes, $50 million each. They collided into each other. This stuff happens at air shows. These planes are dangerous enough. The missions are dangerous enough. And then we throw 500,000 civilians at the airport to watch. And I don't care who you are. If you're Chuck Yeager, that's going to enter your brain. You're going to start to show off a little bit. You're going to have a little bit more fun than you should be in an airplane. Again, combat flying is hard. And then we take hard flying and we make it stupid. Well, let's fly upside down and next to each other at 20 inches away. There's no reason to do that tactically. It's just an air show. It's a stunt. All right? And bad things happen. Cut 1, if you don't mind. Cut 1.
Other at 350 miles per hour and crisscross only a few feet apart. But suddenly, disaster strikes.
Planes are colliding and going right into the stands.
3 of the planes collide in midair. Take another look at this horrifying moment.
It's so gross.
A plane that had been flying on its own clips another.
Boom, boom.
And then slams into a third jet. All 3 aircraft crash into the ground.
Well, lesson learned. Never go to an air show again. If you want to be inspired, watch videotapes on YouTube. Watch the Van Halen 1986 Dreams to the 1986 A4 Blue Angels. You don't have to go to an air show anymore. Those 2 planes crashing, it's enough. I want to cancel all of them. At least the military should not be involved in any of these things going forward. Hey, how about that Jeanine Pirro? I just want to give her credit again for being proactive on an issue, for getting out in front of an issue that was really an issue. This wilding situation with teenagers in the capital, nation's capital, taking over everything from McDonald's to the supermarket to the mall. Just, dozens and dozens and dozens, hundreds really show up, and then they start fighting each other, terrorizing everybody. Jeanine Pirro, U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., wants to start holding parents accountable. It is a brilliant idea. Cut 2, please. Cut 2.
So we now have to step into your shoes, parents, to make sure that your child is not victimized. This doesn't require new legislation, folks. It's all there. And it sends a clear message to the parents that you must supervise your kids or face criminal consequences.
Good for you, Judge Jeanine. And the very next night, all hell breaks loose at a Chipotle. I can't believe that kid survived. He was hit over the head with a great big high chair, for a baby's made out of wood. You see that stuff in the cartoons all the time. You can't do that in real life, or you will potentially kill somebody. But listen to Jeanine, Judge Jeanine there, totally talking about substance. Meanwhile, Chuck Schumer, in this moment of crisis for Jews everywhere in America, he's still talking about stupid stuff. Stupid Chuck, we call him. Next cut, please. 3.
They even decided that they would tax penguins.
What?
Because their 2 islands are included. I forgot the names of the islands. They're not here. This is the room where we hang our towels. This is the room where we move our bowels. And the teacher made him change it to this is the room where we hang our towels. This is the room where we take care of our personal needs. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Who's happy to be here? Raise your hands.
Yeah, sure. Chuck Schumer. Man, oh man, oh man. Good thing that, not a good thing. What's the good? I am going to have to run against that guy, and I think I might be able to beat him. The only thing that would probably dissuade me from running, I don't want to say. Now that I'm a politician, potentially, I'm going to have to hold my cards, right? You don't want to say everything you know. You don't want to tip anybody off. You got to be a little bit duplicitous. That's why I'm going to have a little bit of trouble if I do become the politician, if I do run against him. They're having 2 candidates in a row running against senators in New York State, and we call them sacrificial lambs. They knew they were going to lose. The party knew they were going to lose, and they nominated them anyway, and then they go about losing. That's not the way I would do it. I'd have to do something very, very different. Big, bold, and I'd work my ass off like crazy. I don't know how long it would take. 9 months, 10 months, a year. And I wouldn't be one of these guys. I would raise so much money. I would be good at raising the money. I'm not above raising money. Some people, I hate doing that, asking for money. Well, what the hell else? I mean, it's just like, I'm running for office. I need money. Will you support me? I could do that. I'll say that. Money's not for me. It's for taking this country back. It's for helping President Trump make America great again. Although if I run, it's going to be in 2028. And that would be against, President Trump would be leaving 2028. What would it be? Would it be Rubio? Would it be Vance? Who would the Democrats be pushing? Would that be a good year or a bad year? Traditional wisdom would have it that would be a bad year to run in New York, but who the hell cares about the traditional conventional wisdom? It's usually wrong. All right? Ooh, President Trump back. Remember I was talking about the deliverables? The deliverables. How many deliverables? People are very upset about the lack of deliverables. Cut 6.
The president came over with a phalanx of impressive U.S. CEOs and came back with reasonably few deliverables.
The question is, what are the deliverables?
The president leaves here really with no deliverables, guys.
But again, there was no deliverables really there at all.
I'm very struck by the absence of deliverables.
Sounds like the kitchen room table, the kitchen table at my house. We're all sitting around wondering about the deliverables. We're in a situation where, quite frankly, we never eat as a family. We never have meals as a family these days. The kids are a little bit too young for that. Although we came up with a beautiful solution. My wife is always like, what do you want for dinner? And then they'll say, French fries. No, we don't have French fries. We have chicken, we have turkey, we have fish. Give them a menu. No more of that. This is what's for dinner tonight. There's no, otherwise they're finicky to begin with. You don't want to give them too much choice. All right, back to the deliverables, if you don't mind. Again, with the deliverables. Next cut, please.
No press conference, no deliverables. Why is this summit? I know it's the first of 4 meetings, and this we were told Act 1, but why 0 deliverables, Larry?
Why are we expressing shock that the Trump administration and President Trump himself doesn't do things the same way presidents have done for the last 30 years? Usually, Mark, they have their agreement already done before the president even gets on Air Force One to fly over there. And it's all just a show, and it's all sort of people doing photo ops, and then they didn't even have to do the trip at all. This president does things differently, and I think it's time to get used to that.
Yeah, don't you think? The deliverables. What's up with the deliverables? Don't worry about the deliverables, all right? The deliverables, they can't tell us. More on the deliverables, shall we? One more time. The deliverables, not enough deliverables.
I think there was a lot in the way of optics, Paula, but not a lot in the way of deliverables.
The question of deliverables.
In terms of concrete deliverables.
No deliverables. The president, like all presidents, need to show deliverables.
No, you have to show mastery on the world stage, and he's got that. And I think MAGA people, and I see poll after poll that tries to say MAGA is losing confidence because of the war in Iraq. It's amazing. We've been at this thing for 34 days, maximum 34 days of combat. 13 people have died. This is not a quagmire. The Republican Party reelected George W. Bush in 2004 in the midst of a quagmire. And then in 2012, in the midst of another quagmire, Afghanistan, that he pledged to get us out of, they reelected Barack Obama, Barack Hussein Obama in 2012. And everybody's wetting their pants about a conflict that started February 28th. And you know what? I'm not even sure, technically speaking, it's a war. Our targeting has been so limited, so conservative, so kind of constrained. And that's fine. I'm not complaining about that. And our casualties have been so light, 13, certainly not total war. It does kind of seem like an excursion, actually. I think you could say it. People in the political world are still talking about President Trump and how insensitive he was. So insensitive, talking about how he's not worried about the Iranian people and the American people and their economy. Did you see that? How they totally took it out of context? I did a beautiful video on it last night. Go to my X, go to my Instagram, go to my Facebook, at Greg Kelly USA. It's delightful that President Trump has been tweeting the hell out of my content 3 times yesterday. The Week in Review, the whole thing I did about Tina Peters being freed from jail, and a big chunk on Iran. And when it comes to Iran, remember, the bottom line is this. Cut 9, if you don't mind. Cut 9.
That was worth it to get rid of lunatics that would have nuclear weapons. We cannot let lunatics have a nuclear weapon. We had a choice. Let these lunatics have a nuclear weapon. If you want to do that, then you're a stupid person.
You know, when you see a country like Iran and they're firing wildly at everything, right? They shoot off missiles at hotels, at civilian airports, at apartment buildings. Every time they retaliate, it just kind of reinforces that we can't let them have a nuclear weapon. And it just kind of hardens my resolve, at least. Lindsey Graham, for all of his faults, has a pretty interesting idea. We know where the nuclear material is in Iran, and what we're going to do, we know exactly where it is. We're going to circle it, and we're going to say if any Iranian person goes in there, they're going to lose their life forever. All right, lose their life. Yeah, that's how it works. Lindsey Graham. Do we like Lindsey Graham? I know he's a little bit, some people say he's too fond of war. He's a big hawk. But on this, I think he's right. Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, United States Senator, been there for a long time. Good for him. Maybe I'll work with him in the Senate one day. You never know. Cut 10.
He wants to get the nuclear dust. There's another way to do it. I talked to him about it. Draw a circle around where we know it's at. Call it circle of death. Anybody that goes inside the circle is going to die until we can find a way to deal with this. The goal is to make sure they can't retrieve it. They can't make a dirty bomb. They can't further enrich. Their enrichment capability has been obliterated at least for a couple of years.
Wow. Just circle it. And we have the drones. We have the satellites. We have enough things to keep that under... what the hell is this? One suspect left note with writings about racial pride. Okay, you heard that there was a shooting in in San Diego, California. A mass shooting, 3 people, actually 4 total. I think 3 congregants and a security guard at a mosque at an Islamic center in Southern California. 2 teenagers. Now it's striking to me that when this happens, I'm like, something's up. I've not seen any pictures of the suspects. I saw one on the New York Post. I got the cable news on right in front of me. They're doing a big developing story on this on CNN about what one suspect left a note with writings about racial pride. I wonder what race that was. It's okay. I want to know this. Suicide note left at suspect's home. 3 weapons, hate rhetoric and note. And on one weapon, mosque security cameras. Suspect's mother reported that the son was suicidal and weapons were missing, called up the cops, and a mass shooting. Why aren't we hearing more? And I hear a condemnation of hate. I know why, probably. They want to spin this as white supremacy, right? As Islamophobia. But there's probably something else afoot here, and it makes them uncomfortable, and they don't want to talk about it. That's what's going on. It kind of reminds me every time a trans person opens fire, because there's a lot of that. You know, these trans maniacs, this transgender mess. Some of them are victims. Start pouring chemicals in their body, right? And hacking off their breasts, and, you know, all these appendages come off or are installed. It messes with your head. And there's like an unbelievably disproportionate amount of shootings committed by transgender people. Maybe they were transgenders. Is that another reason why I don't see the faces of the suspects on TV right now? I think I figured it out. All right, 1 second, please. And congratulations to all the workers and riders at the Long Island Railroad.
Greg Kelly.
Let's go, Brandon.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
A New Jersey tech boss named Paul Caniro, is that his name? Who was just condemned as a heartless, brutal killer as he's sentenced to die in prison for murdering his brother and his brother's family. Do you guys remember this? In 2018, the New Jersey tech boss convicted of killing his brother and his brother's family in their upscale Colts Neck mansion in 2018 was sentenced to die in prison Tuesday as the judge slammed him as a heartless, brutal killer. The judge sentenced Paul Caniro, 59 years old, to the mandatory penalty of 4 life sentences without the possibility of parole. In this case, there was an avalanche of evidence pointing to the defendant being a callous, heartless, brutal killer. Wow. This was an annihilation of an entire family, a mass murder carried out by a person who should have protected them the most because the defendant constructed lies that were collapsing down around him. He was and continues to be a manipulative, cold-blooded killer. Caniro was convicted by a jury in February of shooting his business partner brother, Keith, outside the siblings' mansion before going inside and shooting and stabbing Keith's 45-year-old wife, Jennifer, on November 20th of 2018. What the hell is wrong with this guy? He then stabbed his niece and nephew, Sophia, 8, and Jesse, 11, before setting the home on fire and returning to his own Ocean Township home, lighting a blaze there, too, to make it appear as though he was being targeted. Paul's wife and 2 daughters were unscathed. Oh, my gosh. What a maniac. How do you get to that position? How do you do such a thing? Was this his first-time offense? Does he get time off? Jennifer's mother, Betty Caritas, told the judge ahead of sentencing that 1,000 years would not be enough of punishment for Paul, whom she slammed as a monster and pure evil. In an act of pure evil, he took the life of 4 innocent people, his own flesh and blood, out of greed and selfishness. He disgusts us. He stole the source of joy and happiness in our lives and replaced it with a bottomless sadness, sorrow, and grief. How did he do this and why? The sheer malice and betrayal is unbearable. They were executed and tortured by someone who was family. They welcomed him into their space, and he took their lives for material wealth. You know, sometimes I wonder about this. We know it's going to happen. Stop everything, Greg. Stop everything. It's not that big a deal, but President Trump has just endorsed Ken Paxton for the U.S. Senate. Ken Paxton has my complete and total endorsement to be the United States Senator from the great state of Texas. Ken Paxton will never let you down. Congratulations to Ken Paxton, who sat right in that chair. What was that, 4 months ago, maybe 5 months ago? And he was running hard. The Attorney General, they were always coming after him for one thing or another, basically because he's always right and he's fearless and he knows the law and he knows how to litigate very effectively. He was running against, well, he still is, against John Cornyn in the primary there in Texas. And Cornyn is a stuffy, kind of very old world, traditional George W. Bush Republican, kind of holds his nose around John Cornyn, that kind of thing. But Ken Paxton has his liabilities. Ken Paxton, I mean, his wife has come out against him, I think. Oh gosh, Ken had an affair, right? You're not supposed to do that, but people are human. People slip up, whatever. She went berserk, the ex-wife, and he went a little berserk too. So that was working against him in Texas somewhat. But then along came James Calarico, that little, oh my goodness gracious, you ever seen that guy? Looks like he's 12 years old. He's 30-something, running for the U.S. Senate, pretends to be a Christian preacher, but he only uses Christianity to advance woke principles and ideals. Jesus was non-binary. He says crazy stuff like that. And the liberals love it. The only thing they like about Talarico is what he doesn't expand the gospel. He doesn't share the gospel with the left. No, he uses it as a weapon against the right. He uses it as a tool to kind of, you see what they're like and you see what I am, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I totally get you guys, especially the LGBTQ. And, the guy he's running right now. He's raising a hell of a lot of money. Just remember this. Just because a candidate raises the most money does not mean that candidate is going to win. There was a guy named Beasley, who ran against Lindsey Graham just a couple of years ago in South Carolina. He raised $100 million in that campaign. He lost by a lot, and last night I think I saw Beasley on CNN doing one of those talk shows, doing one of his little guest hits. You can have all the money in the world. It's not going to necessarily, you can't buy love. Well, you can rent it, I guess. Oh, man. Hey, back to the guy who killed his family, his brother. He was somber, wearing yellow jail clothes. He did not speak in court, but his lawyer, Monica Maelstrom, said he maintains his innocence. The amount of loss and devastation is truly immeasurable. There is nothing I can say to mitigate that tragedy. He stood, his face stoic and unchanging, with his hands cuffed in front of him and his wrists linked to a leather belt around his waist as the judge read his lengthy decision. His address will forever be the Department of Corrections. You are no longer Paul Canero. You are a quadruple murderer who slaughtered innocent children. This is your identity, the judge said, adding he will be confined to a 4-foot by 7-foot cell until your final breath. He emphasized, the judge did, that the horror of Paul's acts, in particular the ones he unleashed on his young niece and nephew as he hunted them with a knife in their own home. The kids tried to fight off the 230-pound uncle, but didn't stand a chance. Sophia weighing just 45 pounds and Jesse weighing 90 pounds. And after viciously, repeatedly stabbing them, the kids were found with smoke inhalation injuries during the autopsy, indicating they were still alive and breathing as the slow-burning fire consumed the house. What is wrong with this man? A woman could be heard saying, "Oh, Jesus," as the judge described how Paul stabbed Sophia in the nasal cavity and chest, causing her lung to collapse. The judge also repeatedly noted that Paul showed no remorse. Paul was driven to the grisly sayings in a bid to silence Keith after the younger brother confronted Paul about stealing $80,000 from Keith's trust, meant to fund his life insurance policy. $80,000? You do that? You take all those lies for $80,000? Paul, who owned a tech company and an extermination company with Keith, was struggling financially, paying for 4 luxury cars and bankrolling trips with his gal pal, Giselle Restrepo. Meanwhile, Paul's lawyer argued that at trial that a third Canero brother, Corey, may have actually been responsible for the murders and framed Paul. Paul would forfeit his share of Keith's $3 million trust if convicted of murder, leaving Corey as the sole inheritor. And Paul loved Keith and his family too much to ever be capable of murdering them, the defense lawyer argued. Paul cried when Mastalone described how close he was to the victim. This is so sad. And the part that really gets me is it's going to happen again. You know, grief, greed, evil, they're not going anywhere. We can conquer them with God, with Jesus. But man, that devil is running around. And you got to be ready. Somebody once told me a story about how do you get ready? How do you avoid? Well, how do you avoid sin? You know, because it's a slippery slope. And he said one day they took out a canoe, and they weren't supposed to. They were supposed to be at home, and they were in the river. And then all of a sudden, it started to get really, really rough. And then they started to take on water. And then the other one said, "I can't swim." So it starts off really, really nice. You know, you're just paddling in the canoe down the river. Everything's beautiful. And then all of a sudden it gets a little bit more turbulent. And then it gets a lot turbulent. And then you start to sink. And then you can't swim. And then you are literally in over your head. So it can sometimes start with the little things, you know. I'll have a little fun over here. This is not going to hurt anybody. You know, I'm just going to fool around on this thing. Yeah, you know what? It's my own little demon, right? Oh, everybody loves to talk about their demons. I have demons. Expunge those demons. Don't give in to them. Expunge them. Do battle with them. Do war with them. Say no. No, Satan. Get the hell out of here. I'm in charge. You can scare him off. He'll run. He'll tempt you, but you can just like Jesus did on that big mountain. It's true. You have power and agency. I have power and agency. I'm really talking to myself here, reminding me of some things. Well, congratulations to Ken Paxton. He's running for the United States Senate in Texas. And even though he's got a lot of personal baggage, like we all do, the president of the United States just endorsed him. That stuffed shirt, John Cornyn, will lose the primary. And Calorico in November will go down. That little priss. He has no business being in the United States Senate with his crazy ideas about gender and children and the rest of it. That's what we call a fake Christian. An apostate. Maybe that's the word. Apostate. I got to look it up, but I'm pretty sure that's what he is. Be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
$1.7 billion available for anybody who's been victims of weaponized DOJ stuff under Joe Biden and the federal government in general. And it's got a lot of people. I had to do a quick inventory. I'm like, could I make any claim? And the short answer is no. All right, I'm not going to, and I really can't. If I really stretched it, maybe I might be entitled to something, but not really. Because they did hassle me here and there, and I got a couple of bills here and there that I probably should not have been forced to deal with, but that's the way it goes. There are people who had their total lives turned upside down, thrown in jail. We talked to Enrique Tarrio yesterday, 2 years in jail. Actually 3 altogether, and he was going to spend another 17. Thank God he's out. But this $1.7 billion fund that's been established, and they're gonna try to do right by all the people the government did wrong to. The Democrats have gone nuts. Todd Blanche is on Capitol Hill, talked about it. Chris Van Hollen, who really should stop talking so much in public. All right? It's really not his thing. Cut 12, if you don't mind, please. Cut 12.
There's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of, quote, people named.
How about Ghislaine Maxwell? Can you commit that you will?
Yes, I can commit to that, of course.
Okay. Let me go back to this slush fund, because there's also an individual who, after being pardoned by the president, went on to molest 2 children. And that person actually tried to buy the silence of these children by saying that he would pay them some of the funds that he was hoping to get from your slush fund. Can you commit to making the rules so that that person is not eligible for a payout under this fund?
Well, you're obviously lying in your question, because there's no way that this person committed to that. The slush fund, as you call it, which is not, didn't exist.
I'm sure,
but I can commit.
Mr. Attorney General, don't ever do that again. I am reporting
what again?
What he said. He said on the expectation that he hoped to get some of the funds from a payout. He's been hearing
you said from the slush fund, Senator, and that didn't exist when he said that.
This is the fund that the president and all of you have been telegraphing all along that you're going to use to help the president's friends.
Can you point to
Mr.
a single
Attorney
telegraph
General, I have a last
made?
question.
What telegraph did I
have a last question for
Okay.
you. Do you know that it is a criminal offense to lie to Congress?
I am very well aware of that.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Senator Kennedy.
I don't like that one bit. I don't like that one bit. Who won? Who won? That Van Halen guy. He's the one who was with that killer illegal immigrant down there in El Salvador, holding hands and having margaritas and the rest of it. That's the guy. Huh. The slush fund. This is a compensation fund. Very similar, actually, in some ways to other funds that have been established. You know, kind of like the super funds for victims of environmental impact. On a broader scale, I mean, and it was a lot more money. But after 9/11, you know, it hit me yesterday as I was talking to this woman, Jerry Perna. Jerry Perna lost her nephew, Matt, to suicide. He was being prosecuted. It was so over the top. It was so outrageous. And they were going to send him to jail for 20 years. They were going to upgrade the charges and put like enhanced terrorism charges on top of it. He really saw no way out. I wish we knew him back then. I wish we could have talked him out of it. I wish somebody could have, but it didn't happen because they picked on him. When the federal government starts to pick on you, and it's interesting that they picked a group of people, not all, but a lot, quite frankly, most, who don't really know how the system works, who don't know, like Jim Comey, how it works and have friends in high places and know how things work and know how to get things done. James Comey actually boasts about that. He knows the system. He is the system. But when that system turned on regular people who showed up on January 6th, well, they did it on purpose. Because why? Because we're deplorables. They picked on the deplorables. Such contempt for them. They were able to call them terrorists out loud. You know why, by the way? You know why they were so vicious to the January 6ers? Because they were primarily white. All right? And a lot of these folks, on some level, were a little bit sick and tired of going along with the Black Lives Matter thing. Right? Every time Black Lives Matter came up, oh, yes, all hell, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. It's time for us to shut up and listen and all that stuff. And I'm privileged. Even in the face of like the most egregious, horrific behavior, right in front of the rioting, the looting, no, that's beautiful, that's peaceful. I think they became exhausted, right? It can be exhausting, kind of like insisting that you can't see what you can see. So they went all in when it was safe to pick on, yes, the white people. And speaking of racial issues, that brings me to Barack Obama, who could be doing so much for young men of color in this country. Instead, I think he's working on his $2 billion. His $2 billion. And this was the promise, man. He made a promise that just electing him would change the game as far as race relations in America forever. Never thought, never dreamt, quite frankly, that it would make it worse. So he's running around the country. People are falling in love with him. Why? Because of the smile? Because of he's kind of black? Cut 4, CBS News, 2008, before the election.
Across the country, beyond this, the Obama effect has touched a new generation. Young African-American boys and girls who, for the first time in the nation's history, see the presumptive nominee of a major political party and his wife, Michelle, and see a reflection of themselves.
Wow. A reflection of themselves. Because he's black? Like me? Because he looks like me? Does Elon Musk look like me? Do I look like Elon Musk? Do I connect with Elon because do we have something in common because we both have white-colored skin? Of course not. It's pathetic. Next one, please. 5.
His poster of all the U.S. presidents has a new face.
If he's on TV, they say, Mama, Barack Obama's on TV, so the whole house shut down and we all gather.
It's happening in schools, on college campuses nationwide. Educators report a new and rare interest in presidential politics. For these young people, it's not simply the politician. It's the audacity of possibility he represents. Byron Pitts, CBS News.
How about that one? The audacity. Well, it turns out he was just audacious for himself. Going for the prize with only just 2 years in the United States Senate. And that's it. What did anybody get out of it? How did anybody benefit other than him? Can't think. He didn't even end the wars. He didn't even close down Guantanamo. The stuff that he pledged, no, he didn't even. It was all about him and looking cool. He never broke a sweat. That's the thing about Trump. He actually is not afraid to look not great when he's fighting for us. You know, you can't be all nice and prim and proper when you are trying to get something done. You're going to look a little bit ugly. You're going to look a little bit foolish at times. But if you're comfortable doing that, basically there's no limit. There's no limit. Vice President Vance will be talking at the podium in just a little bit. Now, he's got a tough act to follow. Remember 2 weeks ago, it was Marco Rubio. It was little Marco at that, and now they're good. Now they're friends. Now everything is great. Gracie Hunt to have 14 bridesmaids in her wedding. Congratulations. Does anybody know who Gracie Hunt is? Man, it's another Instagram person. It's another semi-attractive person with all kinds of, I mean, maybe she's more. Does she sing? Does she dance? Does she play in the Olympics? 14 bridesmaids. Congratulations. Who is she? None of you dumbasses knows. Who is she? Gracie Hunt. Well, she's very pretty. A glamour lovely, as we might say in Breezy Point back in the day. And she's got it all for now, right? She's got it all for now. I don't want to hate on her, even though before I know the whole deal. Let's see here. She's 27. She is the eldest daughter of Kansas City Chiefs owner Clark Hunt. She's a philanthropist, an inclusion activist, and former soccer player, an inclusion activist. Hunt is known for her work with the Special Olympics, and she's been a global champion ambassador and lobbied Congress. I'm getting a very left-leaning vibe from this individual, but who knows? In 2016, she founded Breaking Barriers Through Sports, an organization that uses sports to promote inclusion and confidence. Okay, she was 16 years old. How 10 years ago she was 16. How serious could this have been? Does anybody know who she's marrying? Chiefs heiress Gracie Hunt's lavish wedding will feature 14 bridesmaids. What the hell is this? A billionaire owner. Engaged to Derek Green, the son of former Chiefs quarterback Trent Green. Well, congratulations. She's got 14.7 million followers on Instagram. 14.7. Yeah, she looks cute in a dress. Very nice with the blonde hair. Is there anything else? Maybe not. I want to hear from my good friend Tom Caniff. Tom Caniff is a defense attorney, and the guy is always on the right side of history. Do you remember Daniel Penny? Daniel Penny, who brought down that Jordan Neely guy in the subway, Jordan Neely wanted to threaten everybody, and he was threatening everybody and menacing, and all Daniel Penny did was constrain the guy, was kind of subdue him for a little bit. And hey, do me a favor. Actually, 646-820, what are the last four again? Tom. Yeah, great guy. He's always on the right side of history. One of my favorite defense attorneys around in an industry that is thoroughly and completely corrupt. He's one of the good guys. He is one of the good guys. He is. I wonder how it is when you have to defend somebody you know in your heart is guilty. You know, how do you do that? How does one do that? Morally, ethically. It's got to be a hard thing to do. But people do it. And actually, I've heard people kind of say, not only do you have to do it, but it's good for the system to do it, which I don't totally understand, but there's something to it. For the system to work, you have to, the guilty are totally entitled to representation, just as much as the innocent. And you know, who's to determine who's innocent and who's guilty? It's not even the job of the defense lawyer. It's not even the job of the prosecutor. It's the job of the jury. And the jury can be, let's face it, a little bit half-baked sometimes, right? A little bit off, a little bit weird. The jury actually convicted our good friend Donald Trump. 4 CIA operatives, at least, on that jury. 4. They also found Pedro Hernandez not guilty of killing that little beautiful baby boy, Eton Pates. Anybody remember that case? Eton Pates. Whew. My heart broke for that kid. And it also gave me nightmares. And nothing made me prouder when my father, Ray Kelly, police commissioner, got up at that podium in 2013, I believe it was, summer of, and announced that the NYPD had cracked the case after, what was it at that point, 37 years. Amazing. Life is amazing. So many interesting things happening. It looks like Mr. Massey of Kentucky will be going down. The primary challenge is real. A lot of money has been spent. I'm actually rooting for the guy who's running against Massey, whoever that is. Okay, he's an ex-Navy SEAL by the name of Reinhold, right? Reinhold, I think his name is. He's good. Primary day is today. Good luck to the anti-Massey guy. Oh, and I also want to say Rob Adkerson, who's running in Georgia to replace Barry Loudermilk. Can't endorse anybody formally, but I'm really pulling for him, too. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?